think England, to be honest, was quite average today at the beginning until the substitutions were made. And then even Beth Mead with the PK and drawing that foul was able to get England back into it and ended up winning the game because of that. I thought Italy came out. They were brilliant defensively. They had game management properly. They managed the game properly. They defended so well. They were connected throughout. They were good on transition. But it was in that moment on one of the transitions at the end of the game where they were, still up 1-0, where then unfortunately they tried to score a goal instead of just either keep it against 3v2. And England then came back after a goal kick and went down the other end and ended up tying the game, which then just elevated their confidence immediately. So I think England, until the substitutions were made, they didn't create much in the final 18. I think in and around the box, they were doing uncharacteristic shots in the first half. In the second half, they came out, tidied up a little bit more. But it wasn't until the substitutions came in to give them that advantage. I think Italy, they were really organized. They were good on transition. They created numbers wide. They had a good momentum the entire game until you mentioned, yes, they somewhat, died out towards the end and didn't have enough in the tank to finish out, which was so unfortunate because the way that they played this tournament was incredible. I wasn't impressed with England today, so they have to. I know Italy had one extra day of rest, but other than that, I think England has to go back and have that mentality that they came out at the end of the game and really apply that at the beginning. And the game probably would have been completely different. But coming into this tournament, you can't think that any team is not going to give you their best. And I think Italy represented that the entire tournament, and they did well today. They showed really well up until the very end.
Yeah, Augie, I mean, you heard it there from Ali. England looking quite average until some of those substitutions were made. And we know that is England's power as well. Sarina Wiegman is not really one to change up her tactics too much. And it's brilliant when you can bring the super team that is Michelle Adjumang off of the bench, as well as Chloe Kelly. Because if we know that a moment calls for something special, you throw Chloe Kelly on. She always plays like she has a point to prove. But overall, what did you think of England on a whole?
I mean, I thought England made really hard going of it today, and I was really disappointed. At half time, you're looking around thinking, Lauren James was totally ineffective when she had the ball. She was lackadaisical. She had that chance, and then she was taken off. And I know that she had ice strapped onto an ankle, but she didn't play well. And obviously now they're in the final. There's a big question mark over whether Lauren James can start at the weekend, whether she deserves to start, because we know she's a great player, a great talent, but there's just something not there at the moment. Second half, I think the same question could be asked of Alessia Russo. Really hard worker, but not really bringing anything to the table. But will Sarina be bold enough or be, revolutionary enough to take out something that she relies on all the time and put a 19-year-old in Adjumang in? So, Adjumang and Chloe Kelly were sensational when they came on. I think we're all watching at 60 minutes thinking, you need to make a change. And then it was 70 minutes, 75 minutes. It's like, well, this is really, really late. But at the end of the day, Sarina Wiegman's 2 substitutions scored the key goals, but she did leave it late, very late. And I think England did they get lucky? Look, they dominated possession. They kept plugging away, but they weren't, like Ali says, they created nothing. It was the same tactic all the time. But they got through in the end. But they're going to have to make changes at the weekend because Germany or Spain will be much, much tougher than Italy because they'll both try a bit harder to attack England than Italy. Italy were quite happy to sit back and soak it up and time waste towards the end. There's plenty of that. But it'd be a different story against Spain or Germany. So England have to raise the game. I think Sarina Wiegman has to raise the game as well.
Yeah, I think Italy were just about 3 minutes away from a final berth that would have been absolutely stunning to see, considering they kind of became the sweethearts of this tournament again, punching slightly above their weight, Sam. We know we've been following their story overall. But as Augie and Ali puts it out, they're still a very average England looking until those substitutions were made. Does Sarina Wiegman mess with things when it comes to the final? Because as Augie pointed out, look, it's going to be either Spain or Germany, and they probably will not have as much room for error as they did today.
Yeah, it's a difficult one because I think it's the same thing that we've touched on after most England games, really, perhaps apart from the Netherlands game, about the problems they've had. They've certainly not been playing at their best. And certainly this game tonight against Italy sort of mirrored the Sweden game in terms of the lateness of the substitutions, which ultimately did pay off. So maybe Sarina would say she was right to to leave them at that point. And obviously, it's not the same throwing, Ajimang and Kelly in from the beginning. It's not, I wouldn't say it's easier to have an impact, but obviously when you're coming on for those sort of 5, 10, 15 minutes and your team's throwing everything at it and you're fresh, you're up against a tied Italy team, it is a little bit different to, starting against, like Ogie says, a strong Spain or a strong Germany side. And Wiegman has been very loyal to some of her players. I think Lauren James could be an issue, like Ogie says, whether it's a fitness thing or not. Perhaps she could come out for Beth Mead or Chloe Kelly, but I don't think we'll see too many changes. But we're going to have to see some more action quicker, I think, off the bench. I think the substitute at halftime today was probably forced because James did have that sort of slight knock, and otherwise the substitutes happened really, really late again, and they really got out of jail this time because the goal came so late. And like Ali said, it looked like Italy had done enough. It was such a sort of bold, brave performance from them, really. When you think about what we would have said about them before the tournament, they weren't really in our sort of thoughts to get to the semi-final, let alone to be on the cusp of a final. And you just, I don't know, you sort of feel really bad for them. It's just the beauty. I feel bad saying it's like the beauty of knockout football, but I enjoy sort of, or you get wrapped up in those emotions, don't you, at full time, just seeing how devastated they were with the contrast of England. You really, really feel for Italy because I think they probably thought in 96 minutes they'd got the job done.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, it's definitely going to be a tough pill to swallow, Ali. Just speaking about Italy and how solid they have been, especially at the back, which is your area of expertise, to soak up that pressure. It's not easy to do, but truly, I know it's going to be heartbreak now, but still, I feel like they should be proud of themselves, considering they literally pushed the defending champions to the very brink. And the defending champions themselves will know that they flirted with danger a little too closely today, I think.
No, defensively, they were brilliant. I think they managed the game really well, super connected. They got numbers in behind the ball as quickly as they could once they lost it. And I think defending against a Lauren Hemp and an Alex Greenwood on the left-hand side, and then you have a Lauren James and a Lucy Bronze who love to get forward into the attack and allow Hemp and James to get into the attack even more, because defensively Greenwood and Bronze can take care of that. I think they did cause a few problems, but defensively, Italy handled it very well. Organized, they were communicating. You could see the shift in the mentality to get numbers behind the ball, to make it very difficult to break Italy down in and around the box. I think they did well. Once they regained the ball, they got it forward as quickly as possible, or just out of harm's way as quickly as possible, and really made it difficult for England to have any type of chance or opportunity to create in and around the 18. So I really am really impressed by how they came out just all tournament, really, defensively, to give the attack more opportunities to have success. And you saw that today. You saw that in the game against Norway. You saw that in the group stage, and it's impressive for their football organization moving forward. Their association must be extremely proud. This is going to help women's football in Italy. This is going to help their league grow tremendously. So there are so many positives to take away from this tournament, despite the fact that they didn't make the final. I don't know if many people thought Italy was going to make it this far. So they should be extremely proud of themselves. They should go back and continue to grow their game, to continue to get better, sharpen your tools, and you have everything positive to look forward to in the future.
Augie, looking at the game, and of course, this was rare to say that it was a game where Lauren James isn't the impact player that we're talking about, or the X factor for England that we're talking about. We did know that her injury issues coming into this, where people even questioned whether or not she should have been in the squad at all. I think she did prove a lot of us questioning that wrong, considering her goals and contributions in the earlier games as well in the group. But now, how big of a worry is it that she may be carrying a niggle into the final? Or should England be rest assured knowing, look at the girls they have coming off of the bench that can easily, and have been the ones who have gotten them through these average performances?
I think it's a bit of both. I mean, I think there'll be a concern about Lauren James's fitness, but also, I mean, we were both in the World Cup, weren't we, Alexis, in Australia 2 years ago, and again she was sent off, and there was obviously concerns about her temperament, and you do wonder sometimes at the very highest level whether she is still experienced enough to handle it. She's a strange player. She's got all the talent in the world, but I do think sometimes she does go missing a little bit when the pressure's on. But great player all the same, especially against a team like Spain or Germany. You need your best experienced players. But the players that can come in, as we know, England have got great talent. And, I would love to see Chloe Kelly start. She's an incredible player. She's so talented. But for whatever reason, Serena Wiegmann doesn't want to start her. She sees her as an impact sub. But so England have got the ability, they've got the talent there. But I don't know. I think when it comes to a game at the weekend, you know, Spain for me are so far ahead of everybody else. And Germany, we know they've got this incredible mentality. They'll be out for revenge against England if they do play England in the final because of what happened in the last Euro. So England need all the best players fit. If there's a doubt over Lauren James, you can't play her. We don't know if there's a doubt over Leah Williamson because she went off towards the end. I think she was fine, but she was taken off. And obviously we know she went into this game with that ankle injury that she sustained in the game against Sweden. So a couple of injury worries for Serena Wiegmann and injuries to big players as well.
Looking ahead to this one now, I would have bet my house that I just got today that it would have been a Spain versus France semifinal. But Germany, again, almost slipping under the radar, and they find themselves, they had to scrap as well. They've not been perfect or far from the dominant Germany that we have seen years gone. But still, here they are, and a formidable opponent against Spain. But how do you see this one going?
Yeah, just to wrap up on England as well. If especially if Spain do win this one, it will be interesting because I think perhaps we'll see a different England because perhaps it'll be a different sort of environment for them. I think they went into this game and perhaps even the Sweden game, certainly back in England as big favourites, whereas obviously against Spain it would be sort of different. So I don't know if that would release any pressure for them. But of course, like you say, Spain have to beat Germany first, and it's going to be an interesting game. I do think Spain are massive favourites for a number of reasons because of the way they're playing. Because Germany have got a few injury issues, a few suspension issues. Obviously, Gwyn was injured earlier in the tournament, their captain, and is not available. Hendrik was sent off against France and will be suspended. There are a couple of other injury doubts. So they go into it with sort of more issues than Spain, who are pretty much full strength. They're without Laia Alejandri, who's suspended for picking up 2 yellow cards. But Spain have just been so good so far in all 4 of their games, really, for most of the games. They struggled to break down Switzerland a little bit, but it was never really in doubt. They're sort of playing on the historical facts, really, this week. We've had a bit of time with Aitana Bonmati. We had Alexis Putellas in the press conference today, and this idea that they've never actually beaten Germany in a competitive game. They lost to them last summer as well in the bronze medal match at the Olympic Games. They're sort of pointing out, look, as they did with England earlier in the tournament. They said England are the holders, they're the favourites. They're now saying Germany have won this competition 8 times. That's crazy. Like, we've never even got to a final. Let's put some respect on Germany's name here rather than just thinking it's going to be sort of a walk in the park with Spain. So I certainly do think it will be more difficult than perhaps I'm going to predict and perhaps other people are thinking. Germany, what they did against France, I mean, as Aitana Bonmati in the interview with ESPN this week mentioned, there's not many teams that can go down to, 10 players after 13 minutes and dig in. Obviously, there was elements of luck. There was a fantastic save from Berger. But that mentality, that commitment they showed, I'm sure they'll have that on show tomorrow night against the Spain side that have been free scoring so far. And a piece I did today just sort of highlighting the impact of their midfield, because obviously Patry, Alexia and Aitana, 3 players we know really well. But before this summer, they'd only actually played in 2, including the Olympics, the Euros and the World Cup. They'd only actually started 2 of Spain's last 21 games at major tournaments for different reasons, injuries, obviously the protests in 2023. And it finally looks like we're going to have sort of a semi-final, potentially a final with those 3 at full flow. So that should be good to watch.
Yeah, that would be absolutely good to watch. I almost want to skip to the final, but of course we have to get through that second semifinal. Ali, you and I were talking obviously off camera during that Germany battle against France that took us to penalties, and it was just a mind-blowing game that pretty much had everything you would want in terms of a dramatic football game. And we were talking, of course, about Berger in between the sticks, just how phenomenal she was. And Sam pointed it out, as Aitana said. There's not many teams that can go a player down and just literally go through that mental toughness to push the game to extra time and then to penalties and then come out on top. But it may not be the Germany of old, but there's still Germany fight in there. So how do you see this one going? How do you think they match up against Spain, who, at least for many of us, is still the best team in the world right now?
Oh, I agree. I mean, I feel like Germany has, a lesser opportunity to win just because of the injuries and just because of, having some of the players who are, disqualified for this next matchup. I think that is really going to affect them in the long run. Yes, they do have this mentality now, but I don't think they had that previously. I remember playing in the Bundesliga for 5.5 years, and I feel like that was the biggest difference as an American player coming into a league in Germany and really noticing that mentality drop as soon as the goal was scored or we had to come from behind, which was very rare too, playing for FFC Frankfurt in the Bundesliga and Champions League. I recognized that the mentality was the toughest part of their game to really overcome. So in that situation, last match against France, which was surprising because France, I felt like, was obviously a number up for most of the match, and didn't take full advantage of their opportunities, which was shocking and surprising because of how good they've been. Germany definitely had the spine of their team intact, with Berger playing outstanding. She made so many incredible saves. She was the key component in their success. So now they're going to have to go back to the drawing board with new personnel in a few of the positions to be able to come out with that mentality. But that also gives some of the players who haven't played a lot to jump into those positions and really prove themselves. So I think that will be a little bit of unpredictability for Spain. But I agree. Spain is just way too good and above and beyond every other team here in the Euros. We've seen that game in and game out. Their midfield is world class. They play with each other every single day for club and country. So they have an advantage there. Obviously, Esther Gonzalez is on the top of her game. She's scoring goals left and right for both club and country. She's had a brilliant tournament. They're going to just continue to feed her in and around the box. So it will be, I think, an uphill battle for Germany. As long as they have that mentality, they could stay in it. But Spain is just too good for 90-plus minutes in order for Germany to hang on and to continue to fight until the very end. Talking about mentality, but it's also about technical ability and skill, right? Creating opportunities and being able to finish in front of goal. And I don't necessarily know they'll be able to do that against Spain.
Augie, you and I were there at the Women's World Cup final in Sydney just 2 years ago. And I remember you speaking just so wonderfully about Spain and the Spain that you saw when England were still somewhat favorites to win that one, given the fact that they were still riding a Euro high as well. And we knew exactly how much they had that mentality. They had more time together under Serena Wigman as well. But Spain were the ones that came out on top. How much have you seen them progress now? Are they still that team, if not better for you?
Spain are the dream team, aren't they? They've got everything, and we know they kind of changed the game. We know that the US dominated because of the way they played. They were just bigger, stronger, more powerful, did just tactically astute than anybody else. The US for a long time, but Spain have come along and just changed the game. They play like Pep Guardiola's Barcelona. They're so good to watch, and obviously they've got young players, talented players, older players. They've got the fantastic blend. But I think they were so good in the World Cup. But I think what's happened since, they've had so much turmoil, really, because of what happened with the coach and the situation with Rubiales, that to come through all that and to be in a position now where they are still the best team in the world, and they probably have got better, they're more dominant now. And I think as a kind of a neutral watching this, you kind of hope that they would go to the final, and if they win, enjoy the experience that they never had the chance to enjoy after winning the World Cup, because that was kind of taken away from that. That kind of joy was stolen from them because of what happened. And the story of that World Cup should be how good Spain were, but it never really was. It was all about the kind of scandal that happened afterwards. So I think now, the way that Spain are playing, and I think they'll come through this game against Germany. I think they'll beat England in the final. I think they'll then get the praise that they deserve for being the team they are, because they are going to dominate. They've got the World Cup in 2 years' time. I think this Spain team could win on Sunday, win tomorrow, win Sunday, and win the World Cup. So that's how good they are. And I just think we're watching one of the greatest teams, in sport at the moment with Spain. They're so good.
Yeah, it's interesting that you say that, Sam, because of course you live in Spain, so you know a lot of what the chatter was after that World Cup final as well, and how it felt like the issue with Rubiales kind of just overshadowed what Spain as a team and a unit just achieved as well. Do you feel like now they feel like this is their time? As you mentioned, there's so many storylines heading into this one, whether it's a grudge match against Germany to get some sorts of revenge after last year in the Olympics. Also, the fact that they do want this Euro, and we've spoken about it. Yes, they've won the highest prize in the sport in the World Cup, but the Euro is something that they do and have spoken, and Aitana has spoken about wanting as well. Do you feel like Spain feels that this is their time?
I don't know if they feel like this is their time, probably a little bit. More just a feeling that they now not completely, there's still work to go, but it's probably the first tournament where they feel truly sort of supported. They feel relaxed around the camp. They feel like they can have fun in their free time. They can sort of go out and do things. I think the important thing to remember about that Rubiales situation was that was kind of the culmination of years of sort of neglect towards the women's team. Even before that situation at the World Cup, for example, the players have not been happy with sort of the facilities, the hotels that they've been staying in, etc. in New Zealand because they were sort of an afterthought in terms of planning from the federation. And that's one of the things that's completely changed. They've now got good facilities here where they're staying at their base in Lausanne. I'm not there at the moment, but their hotel and stuff, and all the sort of, the team that they've got around them in terms of physios, analysis has improved a lot. They've got budgets for friends and family to come out. They've got stuff set up for the players that have got kids, like at any Paredes in the hotel. So there's just much more thought gone into the whole planning, which means the players, and this is the one thing you hear about from the players a lot, is now they can just completely focus on football. They don't have to worry about bringing their family or friends out or making sure they're sort of eating properly or different things, because that's all catered for now. And it might sound basic from many sort of assets of football, but it's not always been the case for Spain at tournaments. And you do kind of feel that around the group. You feel that there's less tension. You do genuinely feel like they're having fun and they're a good group. They say that the mix that they've got now of sort of veterans and youth players is good. I do think it's probably sort of at the perfect moment in that sense, because you've got players who are probably, sort of Vicky Lopez, for example. I mean, Claudia Pina has come into the team now, but I would have included her in that before, who are sort of on the cusp of wanting to break in, but you've obviously got such established starters. And I think perhaps that could be the one thing that becomes a problem in the next few years, how you sort of manage all that talent when you've perhaps got players who are aging or getting older, and then these young players breaking through, how you manage that sort of generational change. But no, this certainly feels like a ridiculous Spain side, yeah.